What the city is talking about. This is Montreal Now on News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
That is James MENNIE. He is over at the Montreal Gazette. So, Jim, you want to start with the decision today, the encampment over at McGill, that injunction that was not granted by the judge?
Well, I just think it's amazing that all of a sudden pup tents are playing such a huge role in news-making events in this city. We've got what's happening at McGill, obviously, for the past 4 or 5 days. And I don't know if you saw that this afternoon. There's a group, its initials are RAPSIM. They are advocates for Montreal's homeless population, and they have set up their own little encampment at Victoria Square. And however, you could look at it, and they have a big banner over the top of it saying, dismantle injustice, don't dismantle encampments. But what's funny is they are protesting the ongoing dismantling of camps that are set up by the homeless in Montreal, stories that don't get anywhere near as much coverage as the McGill occupation. It just seems that all of a sudden everything old is new again, because when I saw the tents go up in Victoria Square today, I had a flashback to what may well have been the first big story that you encountered when you came back to CJAD in 2011, which was Occupy Montreal. I don't know if you remember that occupation at Victoria Square.
Yeah.
It went on for 6 weeks. And over the course of those 6 weeks, we saw some newsrooms try to sort of trick or expose some of the occupiers, because they stake it out overnight and see if they were actually staying in their tents overnight or going someplace warmer to sleep. And what was intriguing, though, and it's so funny when I look at what's happening at McGill right now, when I look at what happened back in 2011, is the message that was coming up from the original occupiers was that it is absolutely obscene that there's 1% of people in this world who have 90% of the wealth. It's absolutely obscene that the difference between the rich and the poor is widening, and it just went on and on and on. It was so funny because back then there was a bunch of shiftless, go get a job, shut up, this is the way the world works. The things they were saying in 2011, people called this show to complain about on a regular basis. So it just kind of goes to show you that, so it's not so much what you say, but when you say it. And I can only hope now with the two things. First of all, with the situation at McGill, is that unlike what happened in 2011 with Occupy Montreal, because that's when things went south, is because a lot of homeless people ended up showing up at that encampment. So I know they have a fence around this encampment at McGill, but I also hope, and having listened to the two lawyers that you interviewed earlier, I hope everyone takes the judge's admonition to heart, watches what they say, and by all means that they don't give in to any instigators who want to make everything go south over there. I'm not entirely sure how long this can last. As I say, the last one, Occupy Montreal went on for 6 weeks. I don't know if they'll tolerate it for that long, but I'm not entirely sure at this point. Montreal police, and I have no inside knowledge here, and I'm just basing this on my experience, having dealt with the cops over all these years. I don't think they're going to be, how can I put it, enthusiastically going in to clear the place out unless there is hard, firm evidence of some kind of criminal activity going on. Apart from that, I don't really think they fancy themselves as security guards for McGill University. And I think they'll want a little more than a trespassing complaint for them to move in.
So, Jim, that McGill came out with a statement after the injunction was not granted today saying, okay, we understand that here's what we're willing to do. And that willing to do is to meet with them, but it's all contingent upon them leaving. And it seems they have no interest in leaving, even if they can get a sit down with McGill, which kind of brings you to where we are, which is a stalemate. I'm only hoping, and I'm sure you saw what was going on at Columbia University last night in New York. And at UCLA, and no one wants to see that kind of thing happen here, but I'm not sure how else this gets resolved if police don't get involved.
Well, I have to tell you, first of all, that, when they say, when McGill says it wants to meet with the protesters contingent on their leaving, well, nobody, I'm very sorry, I'm not taking sides here, only an idiot would accept those terms. You're saying, end your protest and we'll talk about ending your protest. That's not how it works. And you can disagree completely with what's happening at McGill right now. That's fine. The judge who heard the injunction believes that what's going on right now is within the scope of our rights as Canadians, and subject, of course, to the constraints that we all face when we exercise our rights. But I can't help but get the feeling that McGill's trying to set the table here for, oh, look, we tried everything and it didn't work. Well, maybe you have or maybe you haven't, but I'm unclear. And believe me, I'd be the first one to turn around and say, send in the cops if we indeed saw the university's operations per se being disrupted. Every single visual, I don't know about you, Aaron, but every single visual I've seen of that encampment, okay, I'm looking at, first of all, it's not that vast, but it's also, I'm looking at people walking by, people going to class. I'm unaware, and I'm sure McGill wouldn't have waited 2 seconds to say, listen, classes are being disrupted, as they did, right. And rightfully so, when a blockade was set up about a month ago at various McGill offices on Sherbrooke Street. But in this particular instance, I can't see, how can I put it, the moral authority to replace any kind of veneer of legality of throwing these people out. It doesn't seem to be there right now. And I think McGill is going to have to tread very, very carefully, because you're right. We did see what happened in the States, but I think a lot of people understand as well, this ain't the U.S.
Yeah, it ain't. But, Jim, and that's a separate discussion. We seem to be heading more and more, maybe slowly, but, unsurely, towards being that way, right? Someone called earlier on, when I'm going to get to the question, talking about tribal. The differences that are now being set up, that political discourse that we used to enjoy in this country seems to be slowly fading away. I don't know if you agree, but...
Well, no, but you know what? That's not people sitting in pup tents at McGill. Those are guys in $1,000 suits in the House of Commons and provincial legislatures. Yeah. Those guys are what's flushing our political system down the toilet, okay? So, yes, I understand that whole tribal part. But on the other hand, part of what we're supposed to be is demonstrations like this. And as I say, if things go south, if a crime is committed, by all means, move in. This is not supposed to be a shield for people to turn around and commit crimes. But on the other hand, I think we have to understand that this is not happening in a vacuum. It didn't happen yesterday. The demands that they're asking for now had been sought from the university prior to that. The protesters claim the university just turned a deaf ear. But honestly, Aaron, when you say it out loud, when you say the university is willing to meet with them only if they end the protest, well, what is the point of meeting? Is it the inconvenience of a protest? I hate to say it. Protests are supposed to be inconvenient.
Yeah, no, you're right. Let me read you the last line here from McGill's statement, which says, everyone has a right to protest and express their views in an appropriate manner and place. I support, this is from Deep Saney, right? So this from the guy right at the top. Yeah. I support the right of all members of McGill's community to do so on our campuses in ways that respect the law and McGill's policies and procedures. However, no one, let alone individuals from outside McGill, has the right to set up an encampment on the university's property, including the grounds, by their own declaration through explicit signs. The current encampment includes a variety of groups with no association with McGill. This cannot be accepted, will not be allowed. Therefore, the encampment must be dismantled quickly. And this is non-negotiable.
Listening to all of that, Aaron, it kind of makes me wonder, why the heck didn't McGill seek the injunction?
Yeah. Fair question to ask.
I'm a little confused here because the injunction, the crux of my understanding of the rejection of the injunction was that the complaints of feeling threatened, menaced were very objective, based not on actually very firm evidence that the judge could look at and say, yeah, you know what, you got a point here. Let's end this right now. But if McGill is turning around, but those last two paragraphs you read to me sounded very much like they could be the top of a request for an injunction. And as I say, I'm still scratching my head over why McGill didn't get involved.
Fair question to ask. Jim, real quick before we get out of here, and I'm going to bring this back up again, your reaction. I don't know, did we talk about this yesterday? Had it already happened? Pierre Poilievre getting booted out of the House?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I know it gets so busy, eh? You forget from
Did you have a day to now think about it and change your mind as to who's in the wrong here, or is everybody in the wrong here?
Oh, for certainly, Pierre, because I heard Tom Mulcair just walking up one side of the speaker and down the other. But I'm sorry, what I remember, you can call the speaker as partisan as you like. What I remember is the head of the so-called loyal opposition standing up and exhibiting a verbal and characteristic contempt for the entire institution of Parliament. And I don't care if the rules were broken. As a Canadian who likes to think that I still have respect for our method of government, to see it played with this way, it just leaves me fuming. So you know what? I'm sorry. He got the boot, and I don't care if it's perceived as being partisan. Give him the boot again if he does the same thing.
All right, there you go. James Mennie, Jim, thank you.
Adam out.